want to say to my babies that your mama loves you so much.
Susan Smith will be charged with 2 counts of murder.
How could she ever do this? How could she have killed her kids? How could she have been that person?
It makes me angry.
It takes a sick person.
Her case caused so much media because of the small town and because she blamed it on a black man.
Why did he have to be black?
I don't like being here at all. It brings back too many memories.
People would be shocked to know the Susan Smith I knew behind bars.
She walked by and handed me a note saying, "I think I like you."
Susan was very promiscuous and didn't care where she got it at. I've seen her get it in the bathrooms. I've seen her get in the shower. I've seen her lay over in a dumpster and get it.
I was like, did she even got remorse?
Baby killer. I was mean. I was a mean girl. Because I thought she could be a good target for me to pick at.
You can't help but like her. It's her personality. It's beautiful.
She was a very pretty woman.
How can you stay with someone that will have sex with someone that kills their kids?
That's what scared me about Susan, is you didn't see the monster.
I know what we done was wrong, and I shouldn't have allowed it to happen.
She is very much a master manipulator, and I've become her guppy.
I could feel my knees buckle.
How could she do something like that? And it was awful.
She has destroyed so many lives.
She said, I killed my kids. Do you think I care about yours?
You never know what a person's capable of.
On November 3rd, 1994, Susan Smith of Union, South Carolina, is arrested for the drowning deaths of her 2 young sons after driving her car into a lake. The murder case sparks national outrage, not only because of the unthinkable crime, but because Smith falsely tells police that her children were kidnapped in a carjacking by a black man.
These kids went missing and nobody knew where they went. There was so many questions, like, why didn't Mama protect the babies? Why, I didn't understand it.
Appearing in press conferences with her unsuspecting husband, Susan makes impassioned pleas for her children's safe return.
I want to say to my babies that your mama loves you so much.
But after questioning by police, Smith admits to drowning her sons 9 days after the tragedy, reportedly because a man with whom she was having an affair did not want children.
Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children, Michael 3 and Alexander 14 months.
And then all the anger went to her.
Her case caused so much media because of the small town and because she blamed it on a black man.
I also think it's because she was a pretty girl. She looked innocent.
No, it's because she blamed it on a black man. I'm telling you. That's what I believe. That's what everybody else believes. I mean,
Susan's false allegation even prompted Rainbow Coalition founder Jesse Jackson to call for a national conference on racial justice.
Miss Smith's sickest and most pathetic moment, she was able to hallucinate up some imaginary black person to shift the blame to and was actually believed for a while, shows the real state and crisis that we're in.
On July 28, 1995, Susan is sentenced to life in prison and sent to Camille Correctional Institution in Columbia. But behind bars, Susan will be involved in a number of events that will make headlines for their salaciousness and profoundly affect the lives of everyone involved.
My name is Alfred Rowe Jr. I was captain in charge of security at Camille Graham Correctional Institution. I think it's time that I tell my side of the story as to the events that occurred between Susan Smith and myself.
Alfred Rowe begins his job as a prison captain at Camille Griffin Graham Correctional in 1998, after working for more than a decade in the male correctional system. His first night on duty, he meets the prison's most infamous inmate.
She was a very pretty woman, and I think she knew that and could use that to her advantage.
If she dresses up, she's really pretty. Susan's a really pretty girl.
Being a male in a female living area, Making the ladies respect me as a male was more difficult than I thought, even with my captain's position. They wanted to go from dorm to shower without the towel wrapped around them, or they would come out of the shower and let their towel fall off. And Susan was one of them. Initially, Susan and I got to know each other during a shift where I was extremely short of staff. The cottage that was empty that night that I had to cover was Susan's dorm, and I was the only one. We carried on minor little conversations.
Those conversations include the subject of remorse.
She was sorry that she had harmed her boys. She had made a mistake. And if she had the opportunity, she would do something different, but we never discussed the actual details of how she planned it out that night, how it came to fruition. That's how we got to talking, was me sitting in her unit. Susan's demeanor was chatty and, yes, somewhat flirty. I think I was naive, cocky to the point that I thought I could get away with anything because of my status as a captain. I was a 30-something-year-old male, and here is all of these females, and just wondering what it would be like to be with one of them.
According to Rowe, Smith ingratiates herself to the guard by providing him with information about other inmates.
She would tell me who was hiding drugs just to keep me thinking that she was useful to me. And on occasion, we did find drugs on these people.
Susan complains about the distance her mother has to drive to visit, and how she'd like to be moved to Leith Correctional, closer to her mother's home. But transfer requests are often accompanied by red tape and can take a long time.
I know she was wanting to be moved. It's probably more of an opportunistic timing. I can get moved quicker than through other channels and other means. I think Susan saw a big opportunity to get a favor without anybody knowing they were doing her a favor. The first night that I was in her unit all night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, she had gone to the restroom and she walked by and handed me a note saying, "I think I like you." Having Susan as a young and very attractive woman tell me that she likes me, has feelings for me, an ego boost is what ran through my mind. I was just a country redneck farm boy.
Flattered by, and perhaps smitten with Susan Smith, Alfred begins to abandon protocol and his better judgment. And it's only a matter of time before the right opportunity presents itself to both of them.
There was an event in the gymnasium where all the inmates had gathered. Susan was doing the cleanup afterwards. Everyone had left. It was probably 7, 8 o'clock at night. The event was over. The girls had cleared out. It was time for Susan to clean up, and somebody had to stay there. It was in the gymnasium athletic director's office. Susan came up to me when she was about done and said, "I think I want to give you a job. Will you let me?" And I did.
Immediately, thoughts begin racing through Alfred's mind.
I just had a beautiful 25-year-old woman perform oral sex on me for no reason. She wasn't getting anything in return for it. It was just her act.
Or so Alfred thinks.
And then it was, wait a minute, I've just had relations with an inmate, the penalty for which is 10 years in prison.
Alfred's wife, Elizabeth, oblivious to her husband's nefarious conduct, already has a deep-seated opinion of Susan Smith for killing her 2 young sons.
It was a hatred, I wanted to choke her. You know, why didn't you just go ahead and just kill yourself instead of your children? You would have to kill me for me to leave my kids. Sorry. Takes a sick person.
Alfred, Elizabeth, and their young children are on vacation shortly after the encounter when an unsettling feeling comes over Alfred.
I started getting phone calls from people that had heard the rumors that they're looking for me, and they wanted to know what I had done.
For Alfred, there is only one possible explanation.
Susan had talked. My biggest worry was the consequences of my marriage.
No, it was just unreal. Which one do I want to choke first?
And for the first time, 2 of Susan's jailmates reveal secrets about the child killer that they haven't told a soul.
I am of the belief that sexual relationships happen constantly between inmates and officers.
Camille Graham Correctional Institution, September 2000. Prison guard captain Alfred Rowe is in charge of hundreds of female inmates, one of whom is convicted child murderer Susan Smith, guilty of drowning her 2 infant children inside a car she drove into a lake. One evening, after an event in the prison gymnasium, Rowe has sexual relations with Smith, the act of which is a crime.
It's very common for inmates to link up with officers or other people that come into prison. When an officer gets caught doing inappropriate stuff, whether it be sex, drugs, contraband, they go to jail. They lose everything. When you get convicted of a crime, you lose your job status, everything. And I've seen a couple of them come in and go behind Susan.
Alfred's worst fears are realized. Susan Smith has told authorities about their secret sexual misdeeds. Alfred is arrested, and his wife is confronted with the realization that her husband had illegal sex with the one person in this world she reviles the most.
Which one do I want to choke first? My heart was being ripped out.
I knew she was being destroyed. I regretted to have to tell my children I made a mistake, and I allowed it to happen. I had the power to say no, and I didn't.
While freely admitting his own guilt, Alfred believes Susan had an ulterior motive for her actions.
She was wanting to be moved. She then said, hey, maybe this is what I need, a big enough scandal here at the Women's Center that they'll move me to Greenwood. And then my mom can drive to see me.
Within weeks of the incident, Susan Smith is transferred to Leith Correctional in Greenwood. And Alfred Rowe's life, as he knows it, comes to an abrupt end.
I was terminated officially on October 6th of 2000.
Termination is the least of Alfred's worries, as he could face a prison sentence for having sexual relations with an inmate, a decimated marriage and family, and registration as a sex offender for the rest of his life. Alfred's anxiety is at an all-time high as he awaits the fallout of his crime.
To say that I was worried would be an understatement.
They say she got pregnant. She didn't get pregnant. It was none of that. It was all a bunch of lies. She just had sex with him, and he got fired, and she got shipped.
My name is Stephanie. I was known as inmate 268057.
Several years after Susan is moved to the Leith Correctional Facility, Stephanie is incarcerated with her from early 2009 to mid-2012.
I was pretty bad when I was young. I had a drug problem, and, I made some bad decisions. I'm from Gaffney, South Carolina, and Union, South Carolina is just right up the street, So I knew about the case and the story and all, and I was kind of skeptical of being her friend, because I didn't want people to look at me crazy. Like, why are you talking to her, But there's way worse women in there than her. Way worse women. There's way worse crack cases in there of killing your child than her. I mean, there's women in there that fed their baby to their husband. Yeah. The day I met Susan, it was just a typical day, I guess, And to meet her and talk to her, you wouldn't know nothing. You would never think nothing of her. Don't be so quick to judge somebody, Get the whole story first.
Stephanie instantly becomes good friends with Susan Smith.
We like to play cards a lot, spades. We was partners a lot. And we like to do a lot of puzzles, too.
Stephanie is entranced by Susan's gestures of thoughtfulness. They both seem to go out of their way to make each other feel special and human.
She made me a birthday cake, and it's not really a birthday cake. It's really more or less a pie. You put your creamer in the bowl. Get sweet and Kool-Aid, whatever flavor you want, it don't matter. You put the Kool-Aid in there. Cookies, the middle of the cookies. You scrape the middles out. You take the Sprite to make it liquefy. And you just mix it up. And you just pour it on top of them. And you stick it around the sides. And make that one work. Something like that. And you stick it in the refrigerator, and it'll get thicker. And then take it and eat it. That was sweet. That was thoughtful, I liked it. I can't say I don't like her, because I do. You can't be mean to her, because she's so nice. You can't help but like her.
But Stephanie, even now, doesn't know the full details of Susan's horrific crime. Not yet, anyway.
I could not tell you how many times I've been to jail. I've spent more of my adulthood in prison than I have free. I've done a total of 18 years, 7 months, and 16 days in Department of Corrections, all in South Carolina. I come from a broken home. My mom was a nobody. My grandmother ended up raising me. She was full of anger, so I went through a lot of abuse, a lot of physical and sexual abuse as a child. And I think I grew up not knowing right from wrong. The first time I was arrested, I was 17 years old, and I was tripping acid first time, and I got naked in the mortuary fountain. Always the root of my sentences had been drugs, burglaries, grand larcenies, and forgeries. It destroyed my life. This last time I went in, it really scared me. I was almost dead. I could barely lift my hands to my face. I was so malnourished from using drugs and staying up for days at a time. I had become somebody I didn't even know. I couldn't find myself in a mirror. I tried to commit suicide. I tried to overdose. I tried every way possible to end the pain that I had inside of me, and I couldn't find a way to do it. My name is Christy Smith. I was known as inmate 273736, and I was roommates with child killer Susan Smith.
Christy Smith is incarcerated off and on at Leith Correctional from 2001 to 2019. While she and Stephanie's terms overlap, the two never become acquainted in the large prison.
When I first got there and I was on the yard, we all worked on the yard crew. I was like, "Where's that Susan Smith?" And she's like, "Here I am." I'm like, "Ugh, she's a real killer. She killed 2 kids." So I wanted to know about her. So I started watching her. I wanted to know more about why she was there, where she come from, what made her do what she done.
When she's roomed with Susan at Leith Correctional, Christy is a self-proclaimed, fast-talking, streetwise 20-year-old. And she's not about to let anyone, especially a child murderer, get the best of her.
My mama said, "Christy, when you get to prison, you find the biggest, baddest bitch in there and you run up to them and you smack them." I feel like people that hurt innocent people or children or people that can't defend themselves are cowards themselves. I think they're punks, and I think they should be handled accordingly. If me and my boys was locked in the car and it was going to the lake, they would have to come get me out from under that lake too, because the water would drag me in. There would be blood everywhere from right there, clawing my fingertips off trying to get in that glass. And if you really wanted to get them kids out there, you would have got them out. I'm sorry, because all behind that was bullshit.
Christy has her sights set on Susan Smith and plans to make life for her as miserable as possible.
Baby killer.
But tough-talking Christy is in for a big surprise. And later, Alfred learns his life-altering fate. On July 28, 1995, 9 months after Susan Smith drives her 2 sons, Michael and Alex, into a lake, drowning them, she is sentenced to life in prison. When she doesn't receive the death penalty, David Smith, the boy's father, expresses his disagreement with the jury's decision.
Me and my family, of course, are disappointed that the death penalty wasn't the verdict. I'll never forget what Susan has done, but forgive, that's something I'm gonna have to deal with, I guess, further on down the road.
6 years later, in early 2001, Christy Smith, convicted on a burglary charge, becomes Susan Smith's newest cellmate at Leith Correctional in South Carolina. The self-described pistol immediately sets out to make Susan's life a living hell.
When I first went in the room with her, I was mean. I was a mean girl. I thought she could be a good target for me to pick at. Find somebody weaker, you know, as a bully does. In her locker, the way she folds her clothes is immaculately, like, creased in a certain way, and I loved tearing that locker up. I'd done it out of spite. And the first couple of times, she was kind of pissed off about it. After that, she got to quit getting pissed off, so it no longer become fun to me. And then I realized I'm doing the same thing she done. I'm preying on something smaller than me.
After several unsuccessful attempts at provoking her, Christy abandons the effort. At the same time, she begins to observe a troubling side of Susan, a side that appears psychotic.
Susan was very delusional, and I would notice that she would have conversations like the kids were still alive. Like one Saturday morning, we got up. She had the little photo album out. She loved to have the photo album out, and she had her cup of coffee in her hand, and she was just talking to the photo album. She's like, "That's okay. Michael's gonna take care of you, Alex. I know he is." And I was like, "What is she saying? Them kids are not gonna come back." And one day I told her that.
She kept photos of the boys in her cell when I was at the Women's Center and stayed right there in her room.
According to Alfred Rowe and Christy Smith, this is the photograph of Susan's 2 sons she keeps in her cell. And Christy is the sole witness to behavior never before revealed.
I come in the room. She was in the room in fetal position in the bed. She's like, "I didn't mean to do it. I should have died too. I tried to get him out the car. I tried." I didn't even want to deal with that part of it at all. It's a rumor that when it's the kids' birthdays or Mother's Day, she'll mutilate herself.
Unlike Christy, Susan's other prison pal, Stephanie, believes Susan's cutting of her wrists was less a ploy to show remorse for killing her sons, and more a genuine suicide attempt.
She just cut her wrist up. She was trying to kill herself. She cut herself pretty bad. There was blood everywhere. I mean, it was real bad, actually. She had to go to the hospital. She done a number on herself.
There's been times that I think she's done it too much, and it's almost cost her. I know she was rushed to the hospital. Mine's scarred up, but her arms is from here to there are completely mutilated. They look like they've been burned.
As they begin to open up to one another, Christy's mean girl persona towards Susan begins to melt away.
I was top bunk, she was bottom bunk. Our little room was set up kind of like a little apartment because we had a little coffee pot set up. She had a TV, our shoes lined up. It was very clean. She liked to have her control of everything that she could have control of, even if it included your business. It was all like a mental game with her. She minded you, excuse my language, but she did.
It's possible that Christy let Susan's manipulative digs slide because Susan was the queen of the commissary. The money Susan receives from family and admirers affords her specialty food items, which are gold, because prison meals are notoriously bad.
The food is produced by inmates. Everything is done by us in the back. You don't know if they're having sex with the vegetables, because it does happen. I've seen it.
Well, if you ate in the kitchen, it was awful. You don't know what you're eating. It's mystery meat. It's awful.
In prison, food, hygiene products, and even sexual devices are valuable commodities to the inmates. And according to Christy, that includes Susan Smith. So Christy finds ways to make her creativity profitable.
When incarcerated in a female's institution, you have to have certain toys to perform certain pleasures. And I knew how to make dildos, and I sold them. Who says that on TV? In order to do this, these are the materials that you would need. You will need one bra with the straps in it. We would use one of the blades out of a razor blade, but today I have been the privilege of a knife. And you put a small hole. You then are gonna take a long sock and an ink pen. You'll place it down in one of the socks as so. Ask your customer the size that they prefer, and we're gonna fold this up as so. You'll then take the second part and you're gonna wrap this around it really tight. Take the rubber band, place it upon the end. You're gonna take and run it down the biggest finger, which is the bird, the middle finger. There's your phallus part. You then put it through the hole. Do not try this at home. And you're ready to have fun.
That's impressive.
As enterprising as Christy is, she's no match for Susan Smith, who has a seemingly endless flow of money coming in from fans. And just like on the outside, in prison, money is power.
Susan had a lot of money, and she used that to her benefit, every way possible, every way possible.
She had a guy she was seeing, and he used to fly out there to see her. She met him on the internet. He sent her a lot of money, and I mean, her family sent her money too.
The longer you've been incarcerated, the more of a boss type status they would think they had. And other inmates who had not been there very long at all would look up to these people and a lot of times fall prey to what they were wanting them to do.
Under Susan's power and influence, once fearless Christy will quickly find herself an obedient slave to a child killer's every whim.
I was doing everything for her. Susan used me. I've become her guppy.
And when Susan lands a job in the visitation center, her attempt to further win over Christy hits too close to home.
Told my son he could call her Auntie Susan. I said, no, he can't.
I want to say to my babies that your mama loves you so much, and your daddy, these whole families love you so much.
Before Susan Smith's arrest for murdering her two children, Michael, 3, and Alexander, 14 months, South Carolina native Christy Smith recalls seeing Susan Smith on the news in 1994, pleading for her allegedly kidnapped sons.
The first time I saw it, I was like, I knew something. I felt something went right with her. I was younger myself. I was a teenager when it first happened. And I remember my grandmother also saying it. I think she done something with them kids.
7 years later, 20-year-old Christy finds herself locked up on drug charges with 29-year-old convicted child murderer Susan Smith. It's a wake-up call she never anticipated.
I had not been in the streets long. I had not dealt with manipulators and mass criminals and masterminds. At one time I was on a quad with 29 baby killers, but you never heard about their crimes.
Female prisons are very different from male prisons, because if you're male and you go and you kill a baby or you molest a baby, they're going to hurt you. They don't even usually put them with the population anymore because of what they do to them. And the women don't act like that. They just overlook it.
Christy Smith is finding out the hard way that in prison, money talks.
When you're in prison, you're ripped from everything. You have nothing. So we have to depend on whomever to get what we need. Whomever. Susan, that lady's got everything. I mean, she got out today, she probably live the rest of her life with the money she's got. Susan gets her money from numerous men, women. She was on writeaprisoner.com for a while, and they made her remove her ad because so many people were responding to it.
Moreover, Christy, just barely out of her teens, has never had a meaningful female authority figure in her life. So Susan begins to fill that void.
Usually at all the institutions, The ones that had been there the longest, what they were called was dorm mother.
I, for years, grew up without a mom, and I chased a mama. Every other woman that come in my life, the aunt or whatever, I called mama. Everybody was labeled mama.
Within this complex maternal dynamic, Christy gradually begins to assume the role of obedient daughter. Favors are done for approval, even risky ones. According to Christy, Susan has an insatiable drug habit, and she pays Christy to secure a variety of narcotics for her.
I've seen Susan do everything. Snort, booty bump, swallow, shoot. I've seen her do it all. My main purpose was to bring her her pills. I've become her guppy.
Susan's behavior as far as drug use, I believe that's something that she got into after she got moved from the women's institution to Greenwood. And she could no longer get the male attention that she used as a drug, I believe.
Like Christy, prison mate Stephanie Halsey witnesses Susan's drug addiction firsthand and demonstrates how Susan's money keeps it fed.
The way she bought her pills, got pills from people, people would cheek them, like stick them up in their cheek, and the officer wouldn't see it when you open your mouth and showed them, you know, that you swallowed it. They wouldn't see it, and they just take it back, spit it in her cup, and go sell it to her.
And dealing with contraband in prison is a very risky business, where the penalties are severe.
Contraband is hard as hell to get in Leeds Correctional because they make you squat, cough, and I mean, when you cough, you better have a baby when you do it. And you do this naked, bent over. So you're stripped, okay? Check bottom of your feet, your teeth, hair, ears, I mean, every orifice, nose, everything. They check it with a fine-tooth comb. And so you have to put it up in, you pass it right over by your heart in order to get it on the building.
But being Susan's, quote, guppy isn't limited to just contraband. It involves protecting Susan's sexual relationships as well.
Susan was very needy. She always went for boys, the women that looked like boys. The butchier they looked seemed like the more she wanted them. She often looked for those that was could be bullied, told what to do, listened to her, done what she wanted.
Although Christy never asked Susan why she falsely blamed a black man for kidnapping her sons, Christy finds her choice in a prison girlfriend to be ironic.
What's funny is that Susan blamed this crime on a black man, and her lover looked just like the man she described taking her kids with the stocking cap on his head.
That alleged lover, whose name we won't reveal for privacy reasons, reportedly has a lasting romantic relationship with Susan. And Christy, risking her own privileges or being put on lockdown, acts as a lookout during their sexual romps.
When we was in the cafeteria, they'd go in the cooler where the meats are or the vegetables was, and I would sit out at the desk and I'd see the officer coming or the cafeteria worker. I'd be like, hooty hoo, or ch-ch-ch. That's a noise that the officer didn't know because we can't holler, police is coming, or 12, because they know that, you know. So we had to be creative to let them know the police was coming.
When it comes to where sex occurs, it can be practically anywhere.
Susan was very promiscuous and didn't care where she got it at. I've seen her get it in the cafeteria. I've seen her get it in the bathrooms. I've seen her get in the shower, the rooms. I've seen her lay over in a dumpster and get it. They lined the dumpster with trash bags, clean ones, and had sex like that. I was like, no way.
Christy has become a full-fledged errand girl for Susan Smith, seemingly unable to resist her every demand. It will take a great deal of soul-searching and a bold dose of courage for her to break free of the killer's grasp.
She said, I killed my kids. Do you think I care about yours?
October 1994. Susan Smith sends her car into a South Carolina lake, drowning her 2 sons. In July of the following year, she is sentenced to life in prison. For Christy Smith, imprisoned in 2001 on a burglary charge and locked up with child killer Susan Smith, the years crawl by. She is admittedly under the financial and psychological spell of her murderous cellmate.
It's like she'd tell you it's snowing outside right now. Y'all, it's snowing out there, and I'm going to build me a big snowman, and it's 115 degrees outside. I mean, you would believe it by the time she's done telling you.
Susan's power over Christy to conceal her sexual exploits often puts her cellmate in jeopardy of discipline, or worse.
often run interference. I stood at the door like this. Looked like I missed a chair. I stood at the door, looking out the door like this, with my face against the door, so I couldn't see what was going on behind me while they had sex like behind me. I'm the elephant in the room. I faked a seizure and almost killed myself down a flight of steps. And I was at the top steps and I faked the seizure and I misjudged the step and went all the way down the flight of steps on my head. And all Susan could say was, I'll give you $300 tomorrow, don't worry about it.
But as time passes and Christy matures, she begins to realize she's being manipulated.
After a while, I did see a different side of Susan. I believe she is very much a master manipulator, and that's what scared me about Susan, is you didn't see the monster. I'm like a whole monster in her, like a whole another person.
I believe Susan will continue to attempt to manipulate whomever she can to get a favor from another inmate or to attempt to get a favor from another officer or staff member. I think she'll continue.
And Susan's episodes of anger are getting ugly. According to Christy, Susan has a chilling outburst during an argument with her alleged lover.
She said, I killed my kids. Do you think I care about yours?
But the last straw for Christy comes when Susan makes contact with Christy's own young son.
She run visitation. She worked with other people's kids when she didn't even have her own. And played with them like they was hers. Told my son he could call her Auntie Susan. I said, no, he can't. You don't have the privilege to discuss my child when you've done what you did to yours. And my little boy loved her. I hate to say it that much, but Zachary loved Susan because she worked on visitation. I don't think she should be allowed to do that.
Apparently, when it comes to inmate job placement, officers don't discriminate. And neither does Susan Smith's other prison friend, Stephanie Halsey. For her, there seems to be no act that can't be forgiven.
She had met another man. He didn't want kids. She killed him. I ain't the one to judge. And I know from experience and being around other people that you never know what a person's going through in their mind. You never know. When it comes that anniversary, she gets gloomy, you know. But you never hear her talk about it at all. And that kind of worried me a little bit about her. You know, I was like, does she even got remorse?
But it's just a fleeting thought. And Stephanie serves out her time relatively uneventfully with her prison pal, Susan Smith.
I done 4 years. I got out August 2012.
But incredibly, after release, she doesn't do much digging into Susan's actual crime. In fact, some of the case file information, photographs, and footage Stephanie is seeing today is her first exposure to details she either didn't know or didn't appreciate the magnitude of.
I get mixed emotions now, looking at these pictures.
Will this exposure change her perspective on Susan Smith, the killer? And what is the fate of Susan's other cellmate, Christy, and disgraced prison guard captain Alfred Rowe? Stephanie Halsey was child killer Susan Smith's prison mate from early 2009 to 2012. But Stephanie has steadfastly refused to judge her prison friend for her crimes. But as she views footage from the case she's never seen, such as a forensic recreation of the sinking car that contained Susan's 2 young sons, a realization seems to sink in.
Wow. That's all I gotta say is wow. I ain't never seen it to that depth. That's bone chilling. I ain't never seen the reenactment of it or nothing. I don't even think I seen her on the news talking. I don't know how any mama could do something like that. Anybody, period. I ain't even gotta be a mama. Anybody. She disgusts me. I just think she was selfish. Want her happiness over them kids.
As for herself, Stephanie plans on never returning to prison again.
I just learned my lesson. You know, I don't want to be in prison. And to stay out of prison, you gotta not do the things you used to do. My life's wonderful today. I have a wonderful man. We got a good relationship, and I couldn't imagine hurting any child. They're just precious to me. I love babies. I really don't think about her today. You know, I try to leave all that in my past.
While Stephanie Halsey walks free in 2012, Christy Smith would remain in prison until 2019. By this time, Susan and Christy haven't been cellmates for years, and they've drifted apart.
I hope Susan Smith is never released from prison. I think I told her bye. Because when I head out that gate, I ain't looking back.
And Christy has good reason to claim victory.
I've been sober, I can say this, for the first time, a year and 10 months as of my birthday yesterday.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I do work a program. You got to. In everything bad, there's something good. There's still something good inside Susan. She's flipped over to that other side for whatever reason. She's not lost yet. She's still breathing. She can pick up a new life. She can change her ways. Everybody can change. I have a relationship with God. I seek forgiveness, and I forgive myself. That's what's gonna make it different for me.
Alfred Rowe, the prison guard captain who was convicted of having sex with Susan Smith behind bars, has had a tough time dealing with the consequences of his actions. He is charged and pleads guilty to having sex with an inmate. He is sentenced to 5 years probation, 400 hours of community service, and is listed on the National Sex Offender Registry for the remainder of his life. Unable to get a job, he has spent years unemployed. Despite his criminal conviction, he believes Susan is a master manipulator.
I think it's a very safe assumption that Susan set out to manipulate everyone that she used to get her way.
If there is one bright spot for Alfred, it's that his wife Elizabeth chose to stay with him, even after he engaged in sexual misconduct with the one person in this world she hated the most.
Elizabeth's character and strengths and staying with me and actually supporting me through the aftermath has been just overwhelmingly unexpected, but very much appreciated.
People want to know, well, why did you stay with him? How can you stay with someone that will have sex with someone that kills their kids? I don't know. I love you.
They both believe Susan should remain behind bars forever.
Right now, I think life means life until she dies of natural causes as an old woman in prison.